Good morning. Welcome to the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners Board Work Session, our second this morning for Wednesday, October 24th, 2021. It is 10:04 a.m. My name is Ty Menser, Chair of the Board. My left is the Vice Chair, Commissioner Gary Edwards. To my right is Commissioner Carolina Mejia. To Commissioner Edwards' left is the County Manager, Miro Chavez. And Commissioner Mejia's right is Assistant County Manager, Robin Campbell. We have our budget team through Zoom. And we are tackling a 2022-2023 budget update. The meeting is live streamed on the Thurston County YouTube channel. We have until 11 o'clock scheduled.
Thank you, Commissioner. You want to jump in?
Yeah, so Commissioners, the information you're going to be receiving today is related to some information that I shared with you, some of the updates on the upcoming biennial budget. Today, we do not expect for you to make any decisions. So this is just for you to provide a feedback. The public is currently reviewing the draft 2022-2023 budget. For you will have public hearings on December 6th and 7th. And after that, you'll make final decisions. So today, the information presented to you is just informational at this point, and no decisions are expected.
Great. Thank you, Romero. So this morning we're here, as Romero said, the budget, the preliminary budget was wrapped up on October 28th. And the budget team worked very hard to have the budget book ready and published last week. And it went up on our website, and that is the document that will be used for your public hearings. All the presentations, all of the documentation will be around what was published. And there are a few points built into the public hearing process where I'll have an opportunity to say, here are a few things we know about that we didn't know on October 28th. Most of those are minor. We got a new grant that we may want to book. We have an adjustment between funds that needs to be made, does not impact the general fund. But we became aware of one item last week. We were contacted by the auditor's office, and there was an error made in the entry of the amount of change in the indirect cost plan. And I want to say, before we go into the details, that the budget is comprised of thousands and thousands of lines of account code. And in something of that magnitude, there are going to be a few errors. And that's just normal in anything that's this big. I'm glad that we caught it before the budget was published. It's something that we need to address because it is a significant amount, but the auditor has contacted me and expresses their apology that the error was made, but we're going to have budgets and we are all just human. So instead of looking backwards, let's figure out how to fix it. The amount of the error and what happened was when they entered the change for the indirect rates that are for financial services, they entered a $450,000 increase that should have been a $450,000 decrease. So the impact to the budget is $900,000 less revenue than we were anticipating at the time you made the budget decision. So that's the purpose of today's meeting, is to begin to strategize on how to address the $900,000 gap. And that's not in just 1 year, that is an ongoing, because we assume a certain level of revenue from the cost plan every year into the future. So it's an ongoing loss. I've given you some documents, and I'm going to offer a suggestion on how to mitigate the impact in a way that should keep pretty much all of your budget decisions intact. So that's the good news. There may be a bright light in how to address this without too much pain. So the first item, and I'm going to share my screen so the people at home can see what I'm talking about. I've given you the forecast as it was on October 28th, after we entered everything into Plexica. This is what the forecast looks like.
Is that this sheet?
That's this, yes, yes,
This sheet?
that's this big sheet, and it's reflected on this graph.
Okay.
So, looking to share my screen. This share screen. And there it is. Do this so I can look at it. And I'll also do this. So you can kind of see the bottom line. Fortunately, you have a printed copy in front of you. So the one thing that is not aligned, after we entered all your decisions into Questica, and you heard it as we went through this packet and you made your decisions, that some things we had to refine the numbers, some things we had to fix the revenue, certain things you decided we were gonna pay out of ARPA. There were a lot of moving pieces. So once we entered it, it was extremely close. The one thing that wasn't tracking extremely close to your decisions was the salary increase. The salary increase, 2.5% COLA, came in at about 180,000 more than we thought it would. So this graph, when you ended, had been very close to this blue line. There's a bit more of a gap than we had anticipated on October 28th. But not big, it's only off by, yeah, it's not a lot. It's in the zone, if you will, very close to the target. So now we know that we're losing 900,000, and I'm gonna make changes on the screen. So it's 900,000 a year, it's actually 906,000. So if we take that out, the graph, I don't know why it does this when I convert to just the surface. The graph looks really bad. Because you're losing almost $1 million every year. But I have two things to offer that help to close that gap. The first is detention sales tax. And I gave you the latest version of the detention sales tax. In this budget process, we have shifted a significant amount of spending from corrections out of the general fund into detention sales tax. And that's reflected in this plan. And there is still some capacity in fund balance in this fund, should you wish to use it. So if you look at the detention sales tax worksheet, and I'll show you that worksheet in a moment, and what it looks like on the screen, but there's about 400,000 in capacity where we can shift costs. That pretty much takes up the capacity and brings you into a 2-month fund balance you still got a responsible ending fund balance at 400,000 more in detention sales tax. And one of the reasons you can do that and still be okay in the future is you'll see that the 2010 debt payments end in 2023. We make the last payment on that. So we no longer have debt service on the 2010. And the 2015 debt payment, that's wrapped up in 2025. That ends, so that creates a little more capacity in this fund in the future. And then I've asked when the 2016 debt payments, when that debt is paid off, but once that's paid off, depending on if it was a 20-year bond, possibly in 2016 or 2026.
Which one is that in 2026?
It could be paid in 2026. I'm checking to see what the dates of that are, but when that ends, and it's going to be fairly soon, that too will create a lot of capacity in this fund. So you've got enough room. So if
When you say a lot, what's the difference in outgoing payments with that we don't have to make
$3 million.
Here's the EBC.
per year?
Mhm.
Every year that we don't have to
Yeah,
make?
we pay $3.5 million
Okay.
on that.
Okay, and that'll be
particular
paid
debt
off in
issue.
26, okay.
Well, I'm checking that here.
Checking that. That's the debt payment
But when
right
that
here.
pays off, then you're gonna have that much more capacity in detention sales.
Is this all this is explaining why you think we have 400,000 more?
Yes.
Okay.
So if we shift 400,000 to detention sales tax out of the general fund, then that starts to close the gap. Does go a long way, but it closes it some. The other thing that you can do that pretty much gets you there is you can reduce. I know that this is not a popular thing, but you can reduce. We're stepping down the road diversion, the road levy shift by 500,000 a year in this. And if we take that down to 250,000 a year, so you're still making progress, just not as much. And then it would keep going, because it's not totally gone. This has a compounding effect. It's 250,000 in this year, 500,000 less revenue in 2023. You cut it in half with a compounding effect. That takes you here. And to get back up to the line to hit your target, you really only would need to reduce 75,000 in ongoing costs to be back in line. So of all the new spending, if you could choose to be a little under the target and not make any changes in your decisions other than these two. Because you've got an ace in the hole, if you will,
Do you know?
when it comes to Blake.
who
Go
does
ahead.
what?
Blake, because we've assumed $6 million in Blake LFO. You're predicting that it won't be that much. And we've only assumed the revenue that the state has already appropriated. It is more and more likely
More is
that they
coming.
will appropriate additional funding there.
We didn't hear any objection on our legislative conversation
No, I
to
think
that, right?
everybody's tracking, they
Yeah.
need to address that. Blake.
Both parties,
Yeah.
representatives that I talked to were both saying we're gonna get more money.
Yeah, so that's
Right.
what I'm trying to get at. So
So if that materializes, both the LFOs being less and money from the state being more, then when we look at this midterm, you'll have an opportunity, it will both fill this gap in the future, and you'll have an opportunity to reassess any choices that you should make.
Can you go back for?
Go back to what? The graph?
So with the two suggestions of shifting to the detention sales tax and reducing 250 as opposed to 500,000 to go divergent, if you see the graph there, it's pretty much the same, the graph that you ended on October 28th with the decisions.
Well, we didn't know though that there was that gap in salary, because when I first looked at this graph, I'm like, we landed better than that, and then Robin explained it, so I'd really rather be where we were before anyway, I guess, I appreciate the suggestions. I mean, I don't know where my seatmates feel is the right place to make this adjustment. I don't have a lot of heartburn over the detention sales tax with those debt payments coming. I don't want to scrape it, to the bone, but it sounds like we've got a realistic reason to believe that that's fine based on the way that the debt's tracking. The road fund, I would like to do that, but, to me, the board committed to a minimum of 250,000, so I wouldn't feel like I was backing out of the commitment that the previous board made. It'd be great to be able to do more. I guess I would throw out the idea that the JASCOM decision could be either an either or an or, because to me, or delay that by a year. I mean, I was right on the borderline of being willing to do that. I know Commissioner McGee is gonna be mad at me about that, but I mean, if the road fund, I don't know if one's more palatable to you than the other, drop the road fund shift and keep the animal services. It seems like, if I remember correctly, the JASCOM was a 265,000 or something bond, or 300. I mean, that would probably do more actually than the road shift to get us to the line we're trying to reach. I'm just throwing it out there. I don't really have a strong opinion about which way is the right way to go, but that would be the first, if you asked me to put something on the chopping block of enough size to actually close this gap, that would be the first thing that would spring to my mind, because I was so close to feeling like we couldn't afford to do that. That's just something that springs to my mind. There may be other things that I'm not thinking of.
So this is a work session to put all ideas on the table.
Yeah.
I'm offering you one idea.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
Okay, let me kick in another 100,000 or something, maybe. And that is on line 3 of budget amendment 2, label 3, on the coroner's business. I still think there's money there from AR, so we can free up the general fund a little bit. I don't know how much, but I
That would
think.
be a one-time
Well, it'll
solution
help.
it wouldn't help. It would not help, because that's
Wouldn't help
one-time money.
it wouldn't
and
help
it's
the ending fund
ongoing
balance.
Solution, it would help your ending fund balance now, but that's not your problem here. The problem is structural, ongoing. And I will say, to give credit to the auditor, not only did they send their apologies, they sent some mitigating amounts that I haven't been able to vet yet, but that would add to the ending fund balance. But that doesn't address the problem. The problem is an ongoing one.
Okay, how about, have we got finalization in the property tax and sales tax? I know it's an estimate on sales tax yet, because we're not at the end, but you've got final stuff on property tax or something, so is there anything there?
Don't have final things on property tax, regardless of what
Oh,
the
oh.
constituent thinks.
Oh, okay, good enough. Then, come next year, I know we're 2.5% on the COLA for this time around. But mid-cycle, which is gonna go in 2023, we're probably gonna be at 6%. And
You wanna
How?
see what 6% does?
Yeah, I'm just
Let's take a
wondering,
look.
I mean, it's gonna
I
be some,
can, let's see, I have a little worksheet so we could do
if we'll survive, if that
Right.
happens.
6%.
And some of the unions may request that, but not necessarily that will be the end result.
Oh, Jesus.
I know, but it's gonna be,
Because it has to be negotiated.
sure, I know it has to be.
So if that 6% is unattainable,
That's not good.
Yeah, but see, that's what I think we're up against, is a COLA representing that. That's all, I'm just throwing that out,
yeah,
because
you
we're
know,
a
with all due
continuation.
respect, the unions can
Transitory is
the
not
unions can
a,
request a bag of goods.
I know,
That is part of a negotiation that we need to go through because we need to be financially responsible.
I know. I think we're facing a problem farther down the road, that's all, you know.
Right. Other ideas?
I don't have any heartburn with your presentation, you know, myself. I mean, we've got, you know,
It gets you,
maybe it's not exactly what we had planned, but it still fills a gap.
and as I said, you've got an ace in the hole with Blake.
Yeah, and I think that's an
We're gonna
unknown,
have to
that's
see
not
what
known
plays
yet.
out. It is not known yet.
Yeah.
I
No,
mean,
I think you got it pretty well covered.
there's also, this, lost revenue. Here's the 240, or 2.4, almost 2.5 million that you're about to authorize in the amendment to label this 3, yeah. Amendment 2, so we're gonna transfer that money in, that bolsters fund balance, but we're gonna claim more lost revenue in each of these years. And I'm estimating at this time that's gonna be roughly 1.5 million, that number will adjust. Possibly more, maybe a little less, but that number is in play. The Blake revenue is in play. And then sales tax growth could be more than I assumed.
Sure.
Because we saw an economic forecast in Spokane where the presenter said, it's hot and it's not slowing down soon. He said it will, and we've adjusted in the future for softening of the revenue. But right now, he said it's hot and it's not slowing down. So I can't wait to hear what I'm looking forward to hearing from the economists that we normally bring into our,
Next week,
Yeah.
December 2nd.
Comparing him to the guy at Los.
yes. But everything I heard last week, with the exception of the statement that housing is affordable and no one's getting evicted, I did not agree with that statement from the economist in Spokane. Everything else he talked about was tracking to what I see and hear.
Yeah, he had a couple of statements that were kind of head scratchers, but in general, I thought he made sense.
Yeah.
I was convinced by the information to a large extent.
Right, and our revenue pretty much reflects what he's talking about. So,
So can you go back to the graph? Just, that's the easiest way for me to just see the big picture. That's got the, so that graph you're showing us has the detention sales tax increase, shift increase, the road levy shift reduction, and that's it.
yeah,
Okay, and you're saying $75,000 more of cuts would put us at the blue line, kind of closing the gap of the salary thing that we didn't know about really, and then and that's based on, okay, so does anyone in our team up there be able to tell me, I just want to be able to compare apples and oranges, can anyone say what the JASCOM commitment entailed? Is that in your packet there?
have that right here. 246,000.
Okay, so it's pretty much the same as the
Yep.
road fit shift issue.
How much, 240?
246,000. Oh, again though, just by reducing 246,000 in spending every year, yeah, that'd do it. That'd be the same. The reason that the road fund levy shift is you don't have to cut a full million when you use the road fund levy shift. It's because of the compounding impact of how it comes out. So at 500,000, you're reducing revenue in 2022 by 500,000. In 2023, it's reduced $1 million. That's that first 500,000 plus the next 500,000 step down. In 2024, it's 1.5 million. So by only doing 250, it's 250 in the first year, 500, 750.
So that's a greater impact than the animal
Exactly.
services.
Yes, that's what I was referring to as a compounding effect.
Because we're basically, we're committing to a trajectory.
That's right.
And it's a question of how steep that trajectory is going to be. Okay,
Yeah.
well, that changes it a little bit. for
And
me.
every year you have the opportunity to adjust the trajectory, but
So if we subbed out, so if we subbed out the road shift, put it back where it was, took out JASCOM, it would be, there'd
yeah,
be a
you'd
huger
still
gap.
have a gap to fill.
And we'd have to look at other spending cuts.
Yeah. Yeah, Ty.
You'd rather, I mean, I'm asking you,
Uh,
you'd rather reduce the road?
Well, I mean, can we see with JASCOM being cut, I feel like I'm being made to choose like two really great things, and I am having heartburn about it, but that's probably just me.
Well, I mean, we made hundreds of decisions. It's just, to me, thinking about going back to each of the departments and offices and what they're relying on is, I think, that for me, that seems harder at this juncture than something like this that really doesn't affect the other elected officials and department directors.
I will say, from my perspective,
Jennifer Walker won't be happy.
I think
Either way,
that
I get you.
the diversion on the road fund is the
That would
lesser of a noticeable
Yeah.
effect on it. So,
So what is that, Robin, you're showing?
This is with JASCOM.
On top of the road?
No, this is with the road going back to 500. It should have had still a gap,
That
so
that
I'm not
doesn't
sure
seem.
what I did. I have to double check the
I
formula.
think the conversation the board needs to have is, the road diversion reduction is a policy. And JASCOM is services. In
that's
order,
basically what I'm saying.
yeah, in order for you to mitigate this gap, what will be the strategy? Is reduce the policy approach on the road fund or reduce services?
Well,
Based
hold
on
on,
the decision.
we haven't, this was a proposal to increase services,
No,
so
but
we're
what
not
is it?
reducing any services.
And
Reducing from what we thought we were
Yeah.
gonna do, but the road funds, it's gonna bite us at some point. I mean, the
Yeah,
ability to
it's
do
more of a
road
delayed rate.
project, I mean, it's gonna,
remember, if I may, the federal government is gonna be bringing out a lot of money
Yep,
in infrastructure.
for infrastructure, that's right. Lots of bridges and roads.
So, and Public Works will be in the position to hire a lot more people just to meet the demands of that type of expenditure.
And lots of matching funds are gonna be,
So within
Going
that
towards-
perspective, just offering that perspective, because when we had those discussions in October, we didn't know if that infrastructure was gonna pass, at the federal level has passed. And there's gonna be significant amount of money coming to the Public Works.
okay, so why were we seeing,
I need a little more time to
Okay.
figure that out, but I think this puts you in a good position, especially considering the infrastructure.
So maybe the
money coming.
JASCOM graph wasn't right, but this is probably more
This is accurate.
accurate.
I had time to make sure it was right.
I don't think you heard what the county manager said.
I did, with the infrastructure bill, So then we would just have to, if we cut 75,000, Robin, then that would kind of put us kind of where that,
If you cut 75,000 a year in ongoing costs with no impact to revenue, that would put you right on the line.
I don't want to sound like I'm dismissive of this whole problem, but I think we got it covered, so. Because we've got potential lake, we've got infrastructure coming, we've got some other things that are not, that we didn't factor in, but yet we know, we've all talked to our legislative representatives, they all seem that, yeah, they recognize, you know, lake money's a necessity, they're gonna do something, we don't know how much, but I think it's pretty well covered.
Right.
I mean, I don't like it, I'm not saying I'm happy about it, I'm just saying,
And
things happen.
what is, I think is, where you consider taking an action on December 17th, that's a given the next 2 years. There is this projections, and as we know, projections shift depending on so many different factors, blade, sales tax, infrastructure bill, additional
Or get a
revenues.
phone call.
Or get a phone call, you know, we
Yeah.
dealt with this loss of revenue early in the year because we didn't get the sales tax that we used to have. So a lot of dynamics happen. So in the $75,000, you know, it is a manageable risk.
Out of $100 million, $120 million budget, $75,000.
Ending fund balance comes in so much, you know, I mean, it's a crazy amount to think about.
So the intent of this conversation, commissioners, from the staff point of view, is to give you some options to mitigate the gap that we received last year without putting yourselves in the position to revisit some of the decisions that you made. Because as I witnessed, every single decision was thoughtful that you made. Every single decision had a meaning, what you wanted to accomplish with those decisions. And that is the purpose of this conversation. Staff is just providing you those options as to how you can mitigate the impact on the auditors' oversight.
And the increase in the COLA, the unanticipated cost of the COLA.
Yeah, to me, the coal is the biggest thing in 23 and the inflationary.
I think
problem.
that's gonna have a big, impact in the future years.
Future years. Yeah. Anyway, well, we'll deal with that when the time comes. I'm pretty satisfied with your plan. So-
No decisions today.
No, I don't, but I'm just saying, I'm not.
So it's something that you need to weigh all this information in addition to the public comments you may receive, and then,
Let's just have a bit of fun though, before we wrap this meeting, and say, what if the legislature fully covered the cost of Blake?
Well, that'd be $6 million, we'd have quite an ending balance, I think.
Well, that is exactly where this will go. If they fully cover the cost of Blake, it's one time, but, so it's got big impact on fund balance here, but you're just fine in the future years, because you got more fund balance to work with.
Yeah.
And Blake is one time, but if they don't, And after the meetings that we've had with our legislative representatives, it's sounding like they intend to address Blake more than I thought they would.
Yeah, no resistance at all that I can tell, no.
And that's off when they see the price tag, but. So that's what I have for you, if you like any further discussion, of course.
I guess I'd just like to see, I would just like to see the, and it can be later, you know, at the next meeting or whatever, but the actual graphic depiction of dealing with JASCOM.
I'll
I
take a
just,
look and see what.
I mean, I know how valuable that would be, but it's it's a programmatic advance that doesn't have to happen. We've been operating and we have so many different projections going on, and they can all go up and they can go down. I mean, they're just projections, as we say. So I would just like to be a little more dialed back. You know, if we're already with good assumptions, you know, falling short, it's just, that means that everything that goes against us just exacerbates that situation.
What, having not been in the JASCOM conversations, I don't know if less money would be, I mean, is that an all or nothing proposition? Could you do 150,000 instead of 250?
No, because, well, I mean, and I only speaking because I was there for a couple of years, Commissioner Mejia is the current rep, but I mean, it's really, it only makes sense to join the other jurisdictions, and I don't think JASCOM's gonna wanna renegotiate the ILA with another intermediate, you know, there's already a gap between the service we get and the service everyone else gets. The point is to bring us to where everybody else is.
Right.
Negotiating some other intermediate level of service, I don't think that makes any sense.
Just asking.
From my perspective, I'm looking forward to seeing if it works, doing the full boat operation, because during those discussions, we kind of committed, if that doesn't work by doing this, we don't get the service that we need, then we take it maybe all back.
Yeah, we need to reassess that, and that's.
Maybe put together something of our own, which I think is doable. And it'd be a contract with another jurisdiction, maybe Yelm or, I don't know, maybe Tenino, I don't know for sure, but there's a better way to do it than what it's been. I'm not happy with the whole operation right now, but I am willing to take a chance on this is gonna solve and make me happy. But not that I'm so important, but I'm just using that as an example. That I'm waiting to see, is this problem gonna be fixed so that the phone quits ringing for us individually and for the sheriff's office, and starts ringing where it's supposed to ring as things are being dealt with. So I'm looking at a more long-term solution by this investment that we're doing right now. That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of Mejia's wingman on that issue, I guess.
Thank you. No, thank you, Robin, for kind of giving us the options, because, I also had Sarah look at, like, okay, what was the last things we were deciding on, and is that what's gonna have to go? And it was kind of when I saw JASCOM on there, I was like, no.
Well, the other thing we didn't even talk about is the rainy day fund.
It was actually one of the first questions I asked Robin when she told me about this. I was like, well, can we use the rainy day fund for this?
It takes 3 votes.
But it was the one-time funding thing that came back into it again. It's just one-time funding, which it would help us in the beginning years, but after that, it kind of just.
The thing is, because there's an ongoing impact.
Yeah.
Just for tracking purposes, Robin, right now the graph includes the 250,000 reduction on the road levy shift, right?
Yeah.
Just for, if you can add the reduction of JASCOM as well.
Both? I don't know that my graph is,
Yeah,
but okay. 246?
Yeah.
There's the potential cost of living increases in
That's what I was more thinking. Commissioner Edwards is right, then
So.
I hope I'm not, but I'm afraid.
So there's,
I'm afraid there's a problem.
you know, options, you know, whether you consider creating, you know, setting aside capacity for this potential upcoming. So,
When will we know about the upcoming,
next year.
until next year?
Toward the end of the year.
Yeah, late next year.
Yeah.
We'll have an indicator by midsummer.
So,
Uh, Well, we'll see the CPI again, yeah.
so it's all about, you know, the options that you could have, moving into December 8th and 9th.
Well,
Okay, well, it's good to know.
Okay.
now back in here at 11?
A preview of a couple other
Yes.
things that you'll hear for the 8th and 9th. I have received feedback from 3 offices and departments that would like reconsideration of your decisions. The treasurer would like the rest of his request. The emergency services brought forward concerns that I think Romero and I need to have a discussion about. And then,
IT.
yeah, IT on the server, and we'll bring you a list of what the results, the downside is of not doing the new server that Dennis asked for.
You know, IT is not general fund, but.
But it's about half,
But it
isn't it?
has some general funding.
Isn't it about half
back.
general fund?
Thank you. That is the, you know, the indirect.
There's a long-term impact of not doing that I think you need to be aware of.
And, you know, the treasurer, I think the treasurer was what,
20,000.
20,000.
Yeah, small amount.
And emergency services is 9,000.
Yeah, $2,000.
So it really is not,
I-
you know, but everything has an impact. And
Yeah.
everything has,
So, real quick, have you not gotten a request from Superior Court?
I have not gotten any feedback from Superior Court or the prosecutor or the coroner.
I was
or-
told Superior Court was gonna be asking for reconsideration of the assistant to the Superior Court Administrator. You know,
Okay,
where they,
When they reduced-
they gave up a juvie position, they wanted that, and Judge Wilson and Minsky Robeson leaned on me, about the importance of that. That was their number 2 priority.
I
Or
will
didn't
reach
fund
out
it.
to them, because if they want reconsideration, they need to get the
Yeah,
information.
and
to
they
me.
asked me if they thought that they should, and I just told them, yeah, I mean, I knew the treasurer was I said, I don't promise anything, but you certainly have a right to, because the county manager had basically invited that, so I said, you have every right to make that request and make the pitch that you just made to me to the board,
Right,
through a letter, through an email, through
and I gave
briefing or
them
whatever.
a process when I
Okay.
sent out.
Maybe they changed their
notice.
mind, I just wanted to ask, because I hadn't seen it in my own box, and I wasn't sure.
I'm glad you brought it up, because I have not seen it either. I'll reach out to Misty.
I haven't seen that.
Because it all starts to chip away. I mean, if we start granting these 3 or 4 reconsiderations, it doesn't sound like any of it is, I don't know how much. they
Absolutely
generally-
on point. Everything is gonna be adding to,
That's why I'm not.
I've got a question on this for Robert. This information that we've got here is from the end of October.
This is as of your.
So are you gonna put out another sheet based on our discussion today?
No
no,
decisions.
because you're not making decisions today,
No,
Commissioner.
okay. So that comes when, after the 17th or something?
December 8th and 9th is when you make final decisions.
And then after that, there's an adjustment to this?
Right, depending on your final decisions, then we'll globalize this.
Okay, are we good to go? Okay, so that's 10:49. We're gonna close this session. We have another session at 11, I believe, regarding winter preparations.
Yeah.
To our emergency staff, so we're adjourned for now. We'll be back in 10 minutes. Different
All
Zoom.
right, thank you, team.
Thank you.